Well, I don't know what my channel's become anymore. So today we're talking about the movie Chompy and The Girls because it's ridiculous. You can buy or rent this movie on YouTube, but if you want to save some pocket change, I'm going to go ahead and give you the whole entire recap of the movie. The movie, when it starts off, it begins with 24-year-old Jackson who wants to become an engineer. Just kidding. She's trying to unalive herself by using her ceiling fan because she decided, you know what, nothing is worth living for anymore. She doesn't have any friends. She can't talk to her mom or anyone. The only person she really has is her drug dealer. But this all fails because when she pushes the chair away, her fan's like, damn girl, chill, and just breaks. And she's like, shit, now I gotta fix it. Next, we're going to be taking a look at a man named Sam, and he is just not happy in his marriage. He gets home, and he's like, yo, look, some guy retired today to go live in the swamp and become a swamp monster, and she's just unimpressed, not even listening to him. It goes back to Jackson and shows her fixing her fan because she wants her security deposit back, and she's trying to phone some friends, and she really don't got nobody but her drug dealer. So she's like, hey, let's hang out later. But then she also, in a desperate attempt, is like, let me reach out to my long-lost father who never knew I existed. This man just so happens to be Sam, her long-lost dad, and he truly doesn't know she ever existed. So, flashback to Sam, and he's kind of arguing with his wife over a little kerfuffle. She's just unimpressed. He's still unimpressed. She wants a divorce. He wants a divorce. Anyway, he gets this text, and he's like, I have a daughter. And he doesn't really believe it at first, and then she's like, well, you know my mom. And he's like, oh, shit. So he agrees to meet with Jackson and meet up with his little mystery daughter and figure out what the F is going on. I gotta go on a business trip. Now we're going to flash forward a little bit because now they're at the park and Sam shows up to meet his mystery daughter and she's like, I'm Jackson. They have a little bit of a conversation, but then he's like, I'm not ready to be a dad. So he gets cold feet, gets up and starts using those cold feet to go. Then Jackson's like, oh shoot, there's this creepy man with a huge mouth approaching this little girl in a raincoat. Oh my god, it's Chompy. And it's Chompy. So Chompy comes up and eats this little girl whole like a little baby shrimp, and they both look, and Sam's like, oh my god. And now he's just barreling towards them. So they get up and they run their little asses back to their car, and they're like, oh my god, we gotta go. When Jackson gets home, she's like, oh my goodness, who is Chompy? What is wrong with his mouth? And she's just trying to Google and figure out like what the hell is going on, really. Shoves 2 cigarettes in her mouth because she's stressed out. Then she gets a knock on the door. Nobody's there, and she's like, oh, this is kind of weird. So then she turns around to go back, and then Chompy just like hurtles through a door, and he just opens his mouth and he's like, yo, get in here. And she's like, fuck that, no. So she escapes, goes to her dad's house, and the wife comes out and she's like, what the hell, is this your mistress? And he's like, oh no, this is my long lost daughter that I never knew about, so I never told you about her. And Jackson's just freaking out the whole time. She's like, he broke into my apartment and like, we gotta go. And she's trying to convince her dad to go, and he finally goes with her and just like leaves the wife. And this is when the wife notices that he's like coming up the road, so she threatens him with a butcher knife. He gets a butter knife and he's like, I gotta go with my daughter. And the wife's just like, damn. So Jackson tells her dad that she has a really good friend, her drug dealer, and she's like, he knows all about this kind of stuff, and if he just takes one psychedelic, like, he's going to be able to tell us everything. And the dad's like, this is such a stupid idea. But then the wife's pulling up the current location, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to go to this party too. I'm going to get my husband back. So anyways, they get there, everybody's kind of chilling, hanging around, drinking, doing their thing. Don't know what half of them are doing. You can tell they look like NPCs. So she starts explaining to Lotus the situation. She's like, yes, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. And then he's like, it's just going to take this psychedelic. And so now Lotus takes this psychedelic. They're all getting back in their vehicle. They're going to drive around and go back to her place or the dad's place. And he's like, hang on. I think I'm getting some knowledge. Yes, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Just kidding. He throws up and just passes out. Then they spot the little girl. And they're like, oh my goodness, like maybe she would know something. She's like the first person we saw get eaten by Chompy. But this little girl, she does not recall. She's like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, you're creepy. Like, what the hell is going on? She's getting upset because she's like, I don't believe you guys. Like, you guys are weird. Like, she don't remember shit, right? So now they're like rapid Spitfire interrogation, and Chompy emerges from the darkness, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to get you guys again. So then they're like, fuck this. They all get back in the vehicle. The little girl's like, what the hell? I'm being kidnapped at this point. And the wife shows up to the party, and at this point the police are like dispersing everybody. So they all end up back at Lotus's apartment, and she's like, hey, you know all this shit, like, why don't you perform like a soul circle around the house and protect us? And he's like, nah, fuck that, I'm going to bed. So she tucks him in, sings him a good night lullaby song, kisses him sweetly on the forehead. Just kidding. But anyway, she starts looking through his books, and she's like, something's got to be in here. As she's snooping around some more, she comes across a little girl over her dad and some creepy, I'm gonna snatch your soul shit. And the little girl, like, is just like, oh my goodness, like, I can't believe you caught me, I'm embarrassed, and just takes off. She does some more soul searching in the book, and this is whenever she comes across and realizes that Chompy is just this, like, parasite man basically that latches on to other people and like spreads the parasite to them and like clones them to whoever like he attached to. And the dad drops down. He's like, oh no, I have a little baby foot now. And she's like, oh my goodness, like you're turning into a parasite. And he's like, oh no. So they're like, okay, we need to make a break for it. And that's when Chompy approaches them and he just drops down and he's pretty direct with what he wants. He's just kind of like, yo, get in my mouth, get in here. And they're like, wait. Jackson's like, fuck yeah, I want to die. So she heads like first in, like she just hops right in. Then I was like, shit, I gotta save my daughter. So he hops in too. Now they're both in the mouth. This is whenever Chompy explains that the little girl is actually the parasite and he's been sent there to like eliminate her basically on some Terminator shit, and that the little girl is actually the one taking people's freaking souls and turning them into little baby girls too. And they're like, oh my gosh, like we got to capture this little girl now. And they're like, Chompy, like we understand your mission. That's what you was doing at the park, bro. So he's like, fuck yeah, like you finally understand this little girl like ain't shit. So Chompy just regurgitates them. He's like, yo, get out of my mouth. Like, I got some shit to do. And they're like, yo, you get him, Chompy. Like, they're all excited. So the wife ends up killing Chompy, like, immediately after. Just runs his little ass over. And they're like, oh, shit. Like, why would you do that? Now he definitely wants a divorce. So they all hop in the car to go make a game plan. They're going to go to a restaurant and eat. And this is whenever the wife is like, yo, did you really plan to, like, leave me? And he's like, yeah, I did. And she's like, oh, okay. So then now they're at the restaurant and like the daughter's like, yo, like we gotta kill this little girl basically. And he's like, oh no, like we are not gonna do that and da da da, and it's not working out between us and da da da. So then she gets upset and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna act out. I'm gonna be a child because like you missed my childhood. I'm gonna show you what that shit was like. So she starts pouring the syrup all over the table. And the waiter comes up and the waiter's like, yo, what are you doing? It's just not that deep. And they're all embarrassed. They're like, bro, we gotta go. So they all evacuate. They still don't have a game plan, so they're still trying to come up with something to do and figure out about this Chompy situation. And they come across all these clone little girls. I mean, that's a little suspicious. They're like, hey, let's get out and kidnap one. So they're doing this, and some passerby is like, oh my goodness, like, what did I just witness? Thinking it's some true crime shit. So he tries to phone the police, and that's whenever he gets tackled by the daughter, and Jackson's like, yo, you better not do this. And he's like, oh my goodness. So he gets scared and just kind of frolics off. At this time, Lotus is awakening and he finds Chompy's body on his floor and he's like, yo, that's not cool. Now, Jackson's texting Lotus like, oh my god, we just kidnapped a girl, like you gotta come help me with this crime too. At the same time, all these other clones are like starting to appear to like help that little girl out, and this Jackson's like, look, we gotta torture her and like get all these other clones to kind of like change their mind about being here. And the wife's like, this is not cool. The dad is like, this is not cool, right? But these little girls are moving fast, so they're like, dang, they're like really quickly approaching. So they barricade the freaking house. She's like, Lotus, sorry, like, my bad. So then the dad realizes, oh shoot, like my wife's in the back room, and like, what? They're in the house. So he goes back there and just starts sucker punching the shit out of these freaking 6-year-olds, and then he breaks a bottle over one's head. Jackson runs outside and literally grabs a little girl and just shoves him in Chompy's dead body's mouth. And this like rekindled this couple's marriage, and I have no idea why. But anyways, now they're talking and the wife's like, oh no, I have a little baby hand. What is going on? But at this time, Jackson throws herself into Chompy's mouth with the little girl, and she's like, I'm scared. Like, I don't want this parasite. And Jackson's like, I have nothing to live for. Give it to me. And the little girl's like, whoa, really? So she does that. Like, she gives the parasite to Jackson. And at the same time, all these little clones start turning into Jackson. Jackson's not having it though. She's like in there fighting for her life from this parasite, and the dad's like, I'm gonna save my daughter. So he jumps in there too, and he's like, Jackson, and just starts ripping this parasite from her, like trying to free her and save her. And ultimately it works, but then the portal closes up and they're like, oh my gosh, like we're stuck in here. They accept their fate, they're gonna hug it out. But then the wife and Lotus like throw a rope through Chompy's mouth, like a little safety line, and just pull them up like fish. And it's crazy. Then there's all these people like who used to be clones just like wandering around like, what the hell is going on? This little girl's like, oh my god, my parents. And everything just goes back to normal. The wife and husband are just like happy now. And he's like, yo, Jackson, you're never gonna go without a dad again. And she's like, oh my god, no way. And then like Lotus is just kind of like, oh my god, no way. And yeah, it's a it's a movie, you guys. That's it. That's it. Just, I guess, subscribe for more, I guess.